About 3 weeks ago, I took a walk through Hamilton's Kirkland Glen. I found myself again falling in love with this space that I'd entered. As the trees wrapped around me, they offered a sense of calm and security. It was serene and simple and beautiful. It was perfect. I knew in that moment that there was nowhere else I would rather be. So as I passed a mom and dad and their kids, I pictured what it would be like to bring my own kids there one day, to this place that they could call home. I thought, what will they think is beautiful? But then I thought, will they ever be able to call it that? Or will it be too late? You see, my bliss was ignorance, because this place that I call home is not the uncorrupted haven that we've convinced ourselves that it is. In fact, forests and woods just like this are being destroyed around the world and more rapidly than ever before. In fact, since 1900, the same amount of trees have been destroyed as were destroyed in the previous 10,000 years. And in just 20 years, the United States alone has seen a 16% decrease in tree cover. At the rate at which our forests are being destroyed, I fear that I won't have long to share this with a family of my own. And that is terrifying. So this story, this fear, this mission that I share with you today is by no means a unique one. I support this fight, along with hundreds of millions of others, for the benefit of the earth on which we live, for the health of our ecosystems, and the impending threat posed by climate change, for the sake of all those who inhabit these lands, and for the sake of all those who love and appreciate this sacred space. We all have a duty to stand up for the trees and stand against those who believe that the trees are theirs to take. The Amazon rainforest serves as one of the most productive ecosystems in the world, the largest carbon sink in the world. But it's more than that. So as the Amazon rainforest faces detrimental fires and clear-cutting for the past decades, that is a result of the Brazilian cattle industry in Brazil, and only emboldened by President Bolsonaro's anti-environment policies. So as we rid our planet of this critical climate tool, we lose the ability to defend ourselves against climate change. By ignoring the actions of entire industries, we empower them to continue on this destructive rampage of our natural world. And this destruction directly contributes to our changing climate and an increasingly uninhabitable planet. And it should be no surprise that as timber crashes to the ground, as do our economies, as well as people's health and livelihoods. The old-growth forest, one of the most productive ecosystems in the world, is more than just a carbon sink like the Amazon rainforest. It's a hub of biodiversity. It regulates and controls flooding and erosion, and it cleans the air that we breathe. So as farmers in Chile and Nigeria seek to maximize their yields, they can't. And as hundreds of millions of impoverished people from Central and Northwest Africa look for food to feed their families, they can't. And as indigenous peoples from Brazil, Canada, and the United States seek to preserve these lands on which they live, they can't. All these groups face the consequences of an increasingly at-risk and unsustainable ecosystems as a result of deforestation. And if the very existence and well-being of mankind isn't enough to convince you of the threat of deforestation, I would ask you to consider the sheer beauty of this space. Find it in your heart to appreciate on a deeper level the intangible happiness that the wilderness has provided us all. Because as Henry David Thoreau said, heaven is beneath our feet when we're in the woods. This grand expanse of green is seemingly infinite. But unfortunately, it's not. And indeed, it continues to shrink. But despite the mounting evidence to suggest that these forests may one day disappear, they don't have to. At minimum, we can take small actions as consumers, like choosing low-impact products or considering where our food actually comes from. And we can go further by mitigating the damage done by supporting organizations that replant trees in deforested regions. But in order to make real change, in order to ensure that future generations will see the forests the way that we know them and the way that our ancestors knew them, we must act big and we must act fast. In order to turn around the impact of deforestation, we must fundamentally change the way in which society interacts with the forest and the environment, the way in which we act as citizens of planet Earth. It's time to stand up to these industries and governments which have been responsible for the demise of our beloved forests. It's time to take them down and hold them accountable for the damage they've caused. It's time to take them down for the damage that they've caused to our forests and to our ecosystems. Now is that time. Now is the time for bold action, and we must act quickly. John Muir charged us with preserving these lands, saying, the fight against deforestation must happen quickly. The battle for conservation must go on endlessly. It's a part of the universal warfare between right and wrong. And now, over 100 years later, that charge is more true than ever, more necessary than ever before. That's because it's more than just a government policy or a political agenda. It's about the preservation of our world, about doing right for our world. We do not belong to the forests. Indeed, we belong to them. And it's our job to protect them. Thank you.